unintended addition. A friend pointed out that I had an error in my code in part 2. It didn't affect me getting the correct answer, but that's only because the data was kind to me. So I'm going to fix the error introduced in part 2, and as part of that, generalize the input file reading support. So what is the error? Well, let's have a look at paragraphs. Right? So if I run paragraphs by itself, and I'm going to give it, so paragraphs wants a list of lines. The lines probably don't need to be, it just separates on blank lines. So I'm just going to go 1, 2, 3, and then blank, and then 4, 5, and then blank, and 6, 7, 8. Okay, I'll just pass that, and all right, so it gives me a generator. To see the actual contents of that generator, we just have to convert it to a list. Now look what I've got. I've got 1, 2, 3, and I've got 4 and 5. Right? I don't have 6, 7, and 8. If I put a blank line after that, then I will get that. Right? So without the blank line at the end, I don't get the last paragraph. And that's because my code only yields a paragraph when a blank line is found. So I need to fix that by well, I could put a naive. That probably works. So if I get to the end of the lines, then presumably I've built up a paragraph, and so I can then just yield that. So let's see. I'm just going to copy this so I don't have to type it again. Okay, so I get all of the paragraphs now. All right, I've got 1, 2. So why did I say a naive? Well, I haven't really thought it through. What if there is no paragraph to yield there? So what if I put a blank line there, right? So now I've got an empty paragraph, but I thought about this before. What if there was more than one blank line in a row? There we go, I get an empty paragraph in there, and I think I might improve it to not to not yield empty paragraphs, basically. And I think the simple thing to do there is just to say if para yield para. Now I'm not going to keep the code like this, but in Python an empty list counts as false, which I think is just a disgraceful design decision. So I'm going to check to see whether it's empty. So if the length of para is 0, is not equal to 0, so I'll say is greater than 0, yield the paragraph, and I'm going to do the same thing down here. So all right. Now, if I was doing this code seriously, rather than just making it up while I make a video, then I'd be doing it with pen and paper and really checking that things make sense. But that's not the case. All right, so I've got the normal case working. Okay, there's no blank paragraph at the end. If I put extra in there, all right, so I don't get any blank paragraphs there. All right, so paragraph seems to work better now. Right, so that's good. And what really should happen is that you should test these things on greater number of cases before proceeding with them. Anyway, so why did my P01 work before and give the right answers? Well, because the maximum total calories wasn't contained in the last paragraph, right? So it didn't matter that the last paragraph was being ignored. But we should be able to test against more than one, say, test file. So I'm actually going to change these, and rather than call it O1 test, I'm going to call it O1.1, right? And this one will be called O2.1. And basically, if it doesn't have a suffix, right, if it's just O2, then that means that's the real data. If it does have a suffix, that means this is the first test file, right? And I'm now going to introduce another test file. So I'll call it O1.2.text, right? And here I'm going to I'm going to put extra paragraphs in, even though that wouldn't happen in the even though that wouldn't happen in the real data, and I'll keep that one as the last paragraph, so that needs to be caught as the maximum, and I'll just put one more paragraph in, right, because we need to get the top 3 values. Okay, so now I can't currently run anything, right? If I run P01, okay, that works. If I do test equals true, it's going to fail because there's no such file or directory, data 01 test, right? Because I've renamed it. So of course I need to change the code, right? And rather than say test, well, let's work from the outside in, right? So rather than say test equals false, I'm going to say subfile equals none. Right, we expect not to be passing in a subfile. That means we expect to do the real one. Right, so I'll pass that through to input lines. So now let's see what happens with input lines. So rather than test equals false, I do subfile equals none. Right. All right. So now I'm going to say if I'm going to rearrange these. I'm going to say if subfile is none, so if we've got the real one, then there we go. That gives us the real file. Otherwise, rather than say dash test, I'm going to go dot and then subfile, and I'm not going to format that. I just expect those in, not going to make it a 2-digit number or anything because it's not a 2-digit number. Okay, so that should be good now. So go P01, yep, works with no argument, and P01, I can say subfile equals 1, right, and I get those answers that I've seen before, and go subfile equals 2, and you know, that looks like pretty good answers. Okay, I trust that the code's doing the right thing. You know, the sum of those looks like, you know, about that, doesn't it? I mean, I'm actually a bit nervous, so I'm just going to check on my calculator. Yep, 1368, and then if you take the top 3, all right, so yeah, I trust it. All right, so anyway, I now have a more general testing mechanism where I can put more than one test file, if you like, and I can select it. And by the way, I don't have to write subfile equals if I don't want to. I just do that, right? So it's obviously not clear what that means, but that's okay. Just doing it at the REPL. All right, so that might be it now. All right, we've fixed the paragraphs. That's all I wanted to do, right? I wanted to fix the error and generalize the input file reading support. So yeah, I guess that's going to be the end of the video. So I'm just going to comment. This is not comment, I'm just going to read the message that I received from my friend about this. Enjoying watching your Advent of Code videos. Have you fixed your off by 1 error in the paragraphs function yet. Right? And I replied, I didn't know, I'll take a look. And I started to get a sense of what he meant. And he wrote, it's a classic mistake when you're accumulating something, but there's no sentinel value after the last one. I've done it 1,000 times, and yes, I have too. So when you're accumulating something, meaning when you're building up a list. Now in this case, we're using the nice features of the language not to build up a list, but just to pass out the values one at a time. It's very nice. But nonetheless, it does have that sense of accumulating something. We're taking a long list and turning it into a short list, basically. We're accumulating that shorter list. And then there's no sentinel value after the last one. Now, a sentinel value is computer science talk for a special value that you're looking out for. And in our case, we're looking out for an empty string. So that's the sentinel value. Usually a sentinel value might be something that you've crafted specifically, like a special value that you've crafted to be a place marker. In classic language, a sentinel is someone who watches out for something, if I've got that correct. And so, yeah, you craft a special value that marks something that you need to be careful of. Here, like blank lines is not a crafted value, but it is the special value. And because there's no blank line at the end of the list, we missed out on the last one, and the code doesn't give us an error, it's just incorrect. Okay, so I didn't intend to make this third video, but I think for the intended audience, it's really, really good to see what happens when a mistake is made, correcting it, and not only that, but saying, well, we need a chance to have more than one test file. That need for more than one test file did occur to me earlier. Like for harder problems, you sometimes need more than one test file, but I just didn't want to introduce it yet. But this kind of forced my hand. Okay, hope you enjoyed the video, and see you later.